Welcome back to the tavern, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. It's wonderful to see you all. Good and fair evening. Matty, thank you for the raid. Let's go ahead and give you a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Herring, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome in, everyone. Let's see. We've got Herring, we've got Erin, we've got Milu. Castle, I made a thing for your stream. Well, thank you very much. How kind. Was not expecting that. Sage, hello. Yeah, this is hopefully going to be the new time that we do begin. Earlier in the day so that everybody can make it all the way to the end. Teresa, hello. And Frost, hello, welcome in. And Frost, thank you for the resubscription, my friend. The tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. And Milu, thank you as well. That is deeply appreciated. And you guys started a hype train before I even got in here. What a bunch of legends. Alright, friends. Maddie is a working girl now, oh yeah? Of course. 10% goes to the tavern. Also, I piggybacked to your own stream again. That's funny. 1% from Maddie and 89% from Milo now. That sounds like a fair split. It is appreciated, Frost. I do appreciate you. I hope you're feeling alright. Also, I took your advice on the goddess. I integrated in a way that's very interesting. Well, I look forward to seeing it. Okay, so friends, we are on the very last leg. Like you can barely even see how much we have left in Silverthorn. We are absolutely creeping up on the end here. We are very near to the final stretch. Now we're on the final stretch of Silverthorn. We were halfway through a chapter last time. So one of the things that I was going to do last week that I forgot to do was reread a story that was written actually by one of our tavern regulars. Frost wrote a story about the tavern and about the folk who come in here and sit and stay with us. So tonight, before we get started, I'm going to read that story again, because it's been a while. We're going to read Frost's Tavern Tale. And then we're going to get into Silverthorn. Does that sound good to everyone? The Tavern's first fanfiction. Welcome in, everyone. Grab your seats, settle in. It is story time. Raise a glass, fill a glass, whatever you do. I don't believe Bear is here. Jazz, hello, hello. Tyson, good evening, my friend. Welcome in. Hello, hello, hello. Should we wait a minute for Bear? I'm sure he'll be in. Destiny Love, hello, welcome in. You can go ahead and message him, Mary. I'm not in too much of a hurry. I actually got on time today, so I'm not rushing to anything. And again, we are very near the end of Silverthorn. We might even be able to finish this out today if you guys were so inclined. I think we have about 33 pages left in the whole of Silverthorn. We are very, very near the end. Also exciting news, the lady and I have finally finished the first 5 chapters of Twisted Fates. Those are done. I'm finalizing some structure on them, and the lady's doing a little bit of editing. And we're going to redo the announcement of the stories. Like, if you're on Patreon or you're a gold member, you'll get it first. You'll get all of the chapters together. And then the videos themselves will be coming out over the course of the week after we've finalized them. So hopefully this week we should be able to start, but I'm going to put out the announcement video again for what we're doing, because it's been over a year at this point, so I doubt anyone even remembers what the Twisted Fates thing was. And for any of you who are new or who don't know, Twisted Fates is the basically choose your own adventure story that the tavern is writing collectively. I am using characters and themes and world from a world that I wrote over 20 years ago, and I've been working on consistently over that time, building languages and lore and history and so on. And I had never planned to publish any stories in it because I wrote those stories for my brothers when they were very little. And it's only because of the lady of the tavern and you all that I've decided to write another story in it. And if this story does well and people love it, I will also make plans to release the first books in the series. Bear's on his way, he's just running an errand. Alright, that sounds good. And so, the Twisted Fates, it follows 5 characters. 5 of the platforms we make stories on. Each platform will get a character. And then every week to 2 weeks, I will put out a new chapter. And you guys will vote on what direction the character will take. And it's essentially a gigantic game of D&D with the whole of the tavern playing. Bella, hello and welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. Grab a seat. We're about ready to start story time. Esther, hello, Castle. Hope you're doing well. I was unaware of your lives. I do not receive the notifications. Well, yes, this is hopefully the new start time. We will see. No rolling for initiative. Bear was the one who had specifically asked to rehear the story. Yeah, so we can wait for Bear to pop in. That's fine. I don't mind waffling for a little bit. Again, we will probably finish Silverthorn tonight. I think we have I said 33 pages left, and then that's the end. So we will be done with Silverthorn this week. Because yeah, look, it's a little bitty tiny bit. But yeah, so it is 5 characters in the world that I wrote, the first world that I ever wrote. And each platform we make stories on will get a character, and you guys will decide the fate of those characters. The poll for the next book is finished, Herring. For the adult book, Darkness and Sethanon won, so it's the next book in this series. And for the family-friendly book, Harry Potter Book 7 won again. Also, Castle, I talked to Destiny about this. Would you like to help me with setting my tabletop up? I just need help regarding classes and stuff, not so much the story. Setting up a tabletop game? Is that what you're talking about, Matty? Castle, I am here in Australia. It is 10 a.m. I hope I've not... You've missed absolutely nothing, Esther. We are just beginning. The start time was 30 minutes ago. We've been on and talking for about 10-15 minutes. So you are good. I took a poll yesterday. 8 out of 8 people in the tent were pissed at collapsed. That's alright, Matty. I will help you if I have time, yes. Whatever time I can lend you, I will. But I'm very excited for the Twisted Fate story. It's something we've been working on for over a year. I really wanted to do it right, and I'm hoping that it'll be done right. Speaking of which, for any of you who are gold members over in the guild or who are on Patreon, you guys will get all the chapters early, and then you guys will get the read versions of them on their individual platforms with the polls for where they go next. You guys are quite literally deciding the fates of these characters as they go along. Is that the D&DS thing? It's the D&DS thing I've been mentioning. Okay, excellent, Matty. Basically, I'm trying to make sure the classes are balanced and stuff. It's the most difficult part of board games. Or tabletop games, I should say. Castle, your live performance is very clear and the sound is excellent. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you letting me know. Bella, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Very kind of you. You've now marked the tavern on your map. You should be able to find your way back the next time that you seek a story. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. This is a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. Tonight we're reading Silverthorn, which you can see here above my head. We are almost finished. We are near the end, and next week we will likely be starting a brand new book. Ritty, thank you for the goats. I appreciate you for that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. My main focus is the book, but I'm trying to make something interactive. Right, I understand that, Matty. That it is a noble cause, but you want to make sure when you're creating things you don't overwhelm yourself. It's one of the things that creators tend to do, is overwhelm themselves greatly. Ritty Reads, thank you for the heart me. I appreciate you for it. Thank you kindly. Now, friends, we're just waiting. We're waiting for one more tavern regular to drop in. And then we're going to read a story that was written by another tavern regular, Frostbeard, over on Twitch. And also for everyone who's in here, there are multiple portals, ways you can get into the tavern. So you have a preferred portal. You can get in through YouTube. You can get in through TikTok. You can get in through Facebook. You can get in through Twitch and through Kick, as well as TikTok. So wherever you use your preferred portal into the tavern, you can get in those ways. Ads in 5. All right, we'll run those now while we're waiting for Bear to get in. Then. Nate, hello, my friend. Welcome in. Thank you kindly for the heart me. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. Quirt, hello, good evening, my friend. So very glad that you could make it in. Hopefully the earlier time will make it a lot easier for everyone to get in, but we'll see how that goes. All right. Good here. All right. Castle is now warming up. It must be in autumn where the temperatures. Sadly, where we currently are, autumn doesn't begin until the end of October. It'll be hot here for another 2 months, sadly. In a tragic twist of fate. It is indeed always time for cheese. Back children needed cheese sticks before bed. Correct. Yeah, the late start of your stream is nearly my bedtime, which is why we're trying to be a little bit earlier, so it's a little bit more convenient for everybody. And so I'm not working all the way up until bedtime either. Old guy's head inflating, good God. Oh my goodness, really, October? Yes, where we are, it stays very warm all the way up until mid to the end of October. Sometimes we'll get lucky and it'll get rainy and a little bit cool before that, but most often it is always very hot. Very, very hot. Erin is back and home safe. Spectacular. Wonderful to hear. Well, pull up your chair and get ready to go. The goblins got me in editing hell. That's the life of a writer, isn't it? Black Knight, hello, my friend. I'm well. I hope you're well. How have you been? I had presumed as much. You are very welcome for the update, folks. We do appreciate it. We are in spring. It's already warm here. I don't mind. Yeah, it's just it will be hot here all the way up till October, and then it'll stay cool until February, and that's about it. I've been good, packing up for moving. Well, that's exciting. Stressful, always stressful to move, but there's a lot of excitement in moving. The change of a situation, new opportunities, always good things. Well, obviously not always good things, but I always try to look at it from the perspective of every new venture is a new opportunity. Coda, Boo, and Milo are all well. Milo is a lunatic and he keeps deciding to destroy the house in the middle of the night. He waits until all the lights are off and then he just runs around and knocks crap over. He's a little psycho. It's dropping into the 50s here at night, highs of 75-ish during the day. That sounds lovely. You have no idea the number of insert cliche here I would toss into a active volcano to achieve weather like that. He's quite naughty. Heading out and listening on YouTube while I'm driving to practice, catch you all at different portal. Jazz, have fun at practice. I hope it goes well, and maybe we'll see you afterwards too. Just be safe on your drive. I appreciate you staying in and listening. Traumatized by the ads. Belinda, hello and good evening. Welcome in. I'm so very glad that you could make it. Welcome. Currently 70 here and we've got the windows open. I had a Vietnam flashback in those ads, which is impressive because you weren't even alive then. Well, that's in Milo's job description. I guess so. He's a little terror, that one. Little goblin terror he is. Do we have an ETA on the bear? Is the bear almost with us? Mary Beth, hello, welcome in. All right. Hang on. Did the microphone disconnect? No. Okay, we're fine. Looked like it. Tonight we are going to be in Silverthorn, for the most part, but we also have a special treat. This was something that was written by one of the tavern regulars, who wrote an original story about the tavern and what goes on here. So we're going to read that first. And this was something that we've had for a while. I actually need to do a proper recording of it to put out for everyone. But we're going to read A Night at the Tavern by Frostbeard. And then we're going to get into Silverthorn and we'll probably finish Silverthorn tonight. If we're creeping up near the end of Storytime and we've only got a few pages left, I'm just going to go over and finish it. Bear is not here yet, but if he's not here presently, we're going to have to start without him. Because we do have to get rolling on stories. I'll be right back. I'm still here. I'm just getting my sub back. Well, I'm going to pretend like I know what you mean, Matty, and not ask any further questions. Oh, I'm resub. Okay, I got you. Castle, I will listen in the background. I need to prepare Elsie lunch. Alright. Spectacular, Esther. I hope that you and Elsie both have a wonderful lunch. Oh, I see, I see. Well, Maddie, before it gets eaten, thank you for the resub, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated. Sorry, friends, just checking something real quick. Thank you for the drink, Aaron. I appreciate you. $8 months, it very well could have been. Time does tend to fly. It is insane how quickly the time goes by. I'm constantly baffled at how long some of you have been in the tavern. Like, obviously for the lady and I, this is what we do. This is our life. But when I realize how long some of you have been here, it absolutely blows me away. Because it means that there's some truth behind how much the tavern means to all of you. And I presume, I don't just mean some truth, I presume there's quite a bit of truth behind it. But it is just a miraculous thing to me, realizing how many of you there are and how much the tavern means to so many folk is a beautiful thing for the lady and I. Over a year, yeah. Don't worry about starting without me, I kinda know this story. Well, I wanted to wait for Bear to get here, but if he's not here soon, we're gonna have to go. I'm intermittently active, but I've enjoyed the last several years of interacting with you in the tavern. For Court, you're probably one of the oldest members. I would still call you a regular, if I'm being honest, because you've been here for so long and you've been interacting with stories since before 2020. Matty, thank you for the resub, brother. Enjoy your mead of the Morning Star there. I'm going to be selling Matty. I'll sell him as many times as I have to. I need things done here and land to get a village to build the tavern. Everybody just wants to sell Matty and his organs so that we can have the tavern. I won't say that I condone it, but if Matty consents, then I will. He's an adult. He can make his own decisions. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that Quart has been here since the early days. Because Quart came from TikTok. You can't say, Matty, I own him. I'm not sure I can say that without getting banned on TikTok, so I'm not going to say that. She did buy him off me, that's fair. My bits are off limits. No selling Matty's bits. Those are the rules. You cannot sell Matty's bits or bangles or bingles or bungles. That's the law. The law laid down by Matty himself. That is his boundary. You guys are allowed to own him, but you cannot sell his bits. Well, I don't normally wait for anybody. I normally get on and start, but this was something that was specifically requested by Bear. And we wait for you, Esther. If you've requested a song and I don't know you're in, I'll wait till I see you in chat. Unless I don't see you at all, and then we'll just sing the song, but... Which is what we're gonna do right now with Bear. If he doesn't get in here presently, then we're just gonna have to carry on without him. Which I think is probably going to be what's going to have to happen, friends. Okay, so we are going to read a story about the tavern. A tavern tale, if you will. Oh, Matty, a really big knife says to say, cut the bits, cut the bits. Oh, all right. Let's begin, friends. The kids say, hi, why isn't he talking to me? Hi, boys, how's it going? Manual labor only. Trying to explain it's a video and not a FaceTime. Well, it's kind of a FaceTime. It's semi-real time, not actual real time. But hello, boys. I hope you're all behaving for your mother and your father. Erin gave Matty bits. Why can't she sell them? Well, it's fair enough. Matty labor only. All right, boys and girls, we are going to have to begin. Hopefully Bear gets here before the end. Or we can read it on the brick. I'll leave it to you guys to vote. Do we read the tavern tale on the brick, and we just do some Silverthorn now? And then that way Bear will be here for this. All right. We will take a break in a bit. What are you doing? You're ramening? Okay. What are you doing?
Making the ramen.
No, hang on, guys. Hang on. There's a disaster about to happen behind me. Did they really? That's ridiculous. Sorry, the boy is making homemade ramen, which they're still pre-made ingredients, but it's not like packaged stuff. It's noodles, and we have like a broth base and bouillon and things. And he was about to boil like almost a gallon of water for 2 servings of ramen. I had to fix it. All right, let's get into Silverthorn then, friends. Yeah, just a bit too much. Just a small, teensy bit too much. All right, friends, settle in. Fill your seats. Fill your glasses. Well, Matty, you'd want about 3 or 4 cups of water to do that. And he had almost a gallon of it. No, we're going to wait till the break, Frost, because Bear's not here yet, and everybody decided we would be kind and wait until the break. He must be watching Naruto, yeah. We made far from scratch last week, and I wish I made 2 gallons of broth because I'm out already. See, that's a different thing. Like, if you're actually intending to make broth or stock, then you have, you know, that's intentional. But if you're just making 2 servings of ramen, you don't need a gallon worth of liquid. Okay, so when we last left off, they had found Silverthorn. Arutha's crew had found Silverthorn, and now they were on the escape. But Jimmy had fallen whilst climbing the mountain and stabbed himself with the dagger. So, let us continue the story and see what happens next. Again, grab your seats, fill your drinks. It is time for stories. They had managed to avoid detection while carrying Jimmy for the first half of the day. The Moradale still did not know Morelane had been invaded, and looked outward, awaiting the approach of those who now sought to escape. But now they watched a Moradale lookout. He sat perched upon the outcropping that had caused so much trouble getting past before, under which they must gain pass. It was near noon, and they huddled down inside a depression barely out of sight. Martin signaled to Galen, asking if the elf wanted to move first or second. The elf moved out, letting Martin follow. Afternoon was still, and the day was lacking even the slightest breeze that had covered small movements when they had passed 3 nights earlier. Now it took all the skill the elf and Martin possessed to move a scant 20 feet without alerting the sentry. Martin knocked an arrow and took aim over Galen's shoulder. Galen pulled his hunting knife and rose up beside the Moradale. Galen tapped him on the shoulder, and the dark elf spun at an unexpected contact, and Galen slashed his knife across his throat. The Moradale reared up, and Martin's arrow took him in the chest. Galen grabbed him about his knees, lowering him back into his sitting position. He twisted Martin's arrow, breaking it off rather than trying to pull it out. In only moments, the Moradale had been killed and still seemed at his post. Martin and Galen ducked back down and faced the others. He'll be discovered in a few hours. They may think us on our way in, search above for us. But then they'll be down the mountain. Now we must fly. There are 2 days to the outer reaches of the elven forest, if we don't stop. Come. They scrambled down the trail, Jimmy wincing as he was half carried by Laurie. If the horses are still there, muttered Rold. If they're not, said Jimmy weakly. "At least it's all downhill." They stopped only to let the horses get minimal rest. They required to survive the cross-country run. It would be likely the animals would not be usable after the dash, but that could not be helped. Arutha would let nothing prevent his return now that he possessed a means of Foranita's cure. Before, he had been a man on the edge of despair. Now, flame burned within, and he wouldn't let anything extinguish it. Through the night, they rode. I'm not cooking ramen, but I am cooking beef stew and enjoying an RC Cola in my tankard. Oh, RC Cola's a classic. Doesn't get enough love. The ladies are selling Matty to get the village win-win. Of all the things to take away theatre about, TikTok makes some very questionable decisions with the things that they institute and take away. I don't understand it, but I'm not a businessman like them, I guess. I don't know. Lathered, panting horses were led by exhausted riders down the woodland trail. They entered deep forests until the foothills of the mountains, but close to the boundary of the elven forest. Jimmy was half conscious from loss of blood, fatigue, and pain. The wound had opened again sometime during the night, and he had been unable to do more than clutch his side. Then the boy's eyes rolled up, and he fell face down onto the trail. When he regained consciousness, he sat up, held by Lorry and Baru, while Martin and Rold wrapped him in fresh bandages, cut from Martin's cloak. "This will have to do, until we reach Elvendar," said Martin. Arutha said, "If it opens again, say something. Galen, ride double with him. Don't let him fall off." Once again they were in the saddle, and once again they endured the nightmare ride. Near sundown of the second day, the first horse faltered. Martin put it down quickly and said, "I'll run for a while." For nearly 3 miles the Duke ran. Though the fatigued horse pace was slower than normal, this was still an impressive feat. Baru took the trail for a while, then Galen, but still they were reaching their limit. The horses were reduced to a loping canter and trotting. Then they could only walk. In silence they moved through the night, simply counting the passing yards as each minute took them closer to safety, knowing that somewhere behind, the mute Moredel, captain and his black slayers followed. Near morning they crossed the small trail, and Martin said, "Here we must split forces. For they can't know we haven't turned east for Stone Mountain." Arutha said, "Everyone, dismount." They did, and the prince said, "Martin, lead the horses toward the Stone Mountain for a while. Then turn them loose and we'll continue on foot." Martin did as he was bidden, while Baru masked the tracks of those on foot. Martin caught up with him an hour later. As he ran down the woodland trail toward them, he said, "I think I heard something behind. I can't be sure. The wind is picking up, and the noise was faint." Arutha said, "We continue to Elvendar, but keep alert for a defensible position." He started a stagger-legged run, and the others took off after him, Jimmy supported in part by Martin. For nearly an hour they half ran, half stumbled along until the sound of pursuit could be heard echoing through the woods. They felt a surge of energy as fear drove them onward. Then Arutha pointed toward the outcropping of rock in a semicircle that formed an almost perfect natural breastwork. He asked Galen, "How far until help?" The elf studied the woods in the early morning light and said, "We are near the edge of our forests. My people will be an hour away, perhaps 2. Arutha quickly gave the elf the pack containing the Silverthorn and said, "Take Jimmy. We'll hold them here until you return." They all knew the pack was against the possibility of that the elf didn't return on time. At least Anita could still be cured. Jimmy sat down on the rock. Don't be ridiculous. I would double the time he'll take to find help. I can fight standing still better than I can run. And with that, he crawled over to the stone breastwork and pulled out his dirk. Arutha looked at the boy, tired, bleeding again, almost collapsing from fatigue and blood lost, but grinning at him, while holding his dirk. Arutha gave a curt nod and the elf was off. Quickly they got behind the rocks, drew weapons, and waited. For long minutes they huddled down behind the rocks, knowing that as each minute passed, their chances of rescue increased. Almost with each breath, they could feel rescue and obliteration racing towards them. Chance as much as anything would determine their survival. If Callan and his warriors were waiting close to the edge of the forest, and Ghislaine could quickly locate them, there was hope. If not, no hope. In the distance, the sound of riders grew louder. Each moment passed slowly, each instant of possible discovery dragging by, and the agony of waiting increased. Then, in almost welcome relief, a shout was sounded, and the Moradrel were upon them. Bear, hello! Welcome in, Kristalla, hello! Wait, you're live early? It must be a cold day in hell. Well, believe it or not, this is going to be the new time that we are on, if it can be managed. We'll have to see, but this is very likely going to be our new point of story time. Again, if it can be managed. SL Comer and Pam, thank you for the subscriptions over on YouTube, by the way. I appreciate you. Everyone voted to wait for you for Ross Story Bear, so once we finish this chapter, we'll take a break, and I'll read it on the break before we do songs. Alright, where were we? Martin rose up, his bow already drawn by the time he had a target. The first Moradel to see them was propelled backwards out of his saddle by the force of the arrow, taking him in the chest. Arutha and the others made ready. A dozen Moradel riders milled out, startled by the sudden bow fire. Before they could react, Martin had another down. 3 turned and rode away, but others charged. The outcropping reared up and spread out, making it impossible for the Moradel to overrun them. But they came at full gallop anyway, their horses' hooves making dull thunder upon the still damp ground. Though they rode close to the necks of their horses, 2 or more of them taken by Martin's bow before they reached the stone reduct. Then the Moradel were upon them. Baru leapt atop the rocks, his long sword a blur as he sliced through the air. A Moradel fell, his arms severed from his body. Arutha ran up and jumped from the rocks, dragging a dark brother from his saddle. The Moradel died under his knife. He spun in place, his rapier coming from its sheath as another rider charged. The prince stood his ground until the last. Then, with a sideways leap and a slash, unseated the rider. A quick thrust, and the Moradel died. Rolled pulled one from his saddle, and then both slid down into the protection of the rocks. Jimmy waited as they rolled about. Then, when he saw an opening, another dark brother died as the boy used his dirk. It's good to see you as well, Kristalla. I'm glad that you were able to join us. There's always a seat open for you, you know. No, that's quite alright, Bear. That's quite alright. It's understandable. Life does tend to just put things on our plate, doesn't it? The two remaining saw Laurie and Martin ready and chose to retreat. Both died as Martin's bow sang in the morning light. As soon as they were out of the settle, Martin was over the rocks. He quickly scavenged the bodies and returned with a short bow and 2 quivers of arrows. "I'm almost out," he said, indicating his depleted quiver. "These are not cloth-yard shafts, but I can use this little horsebow if I need." Arutha looked about. "There'll be more along soon." "Do we run?" asked Jimmy. "No. We could only gain a little, and we might not find a place nearly as defensible. We wait." Minutes passed, and all waited with eyes turned towards the trail. They knew the Moradel would use to attack them. Laurie whispered, "Run, Galen, run." For what seemed an eternity, the woods were silent. Then, in clouds of dust with hooves pounding the ground, horsemen came into view. The giant mute, Murad, rode in the van, a dozen black slayers behind him. Other Moradel and human renegades followed. Murad reined in, signaling for the others to halt. Jimmy groaned. "Oh, there's 100 of them," Rold said. "Not 100, more like 30, Laurie said. "Well, that's enough." Arutha looked around over the rocks, saying, "We may be able to hold for a few minutes." They all knew it was hopeless. Then Baru stood. Before anyone could prevent him, he started shouting at the Moradel in a language unknown to Jimmy, the Prince, and Martin. Laurie and Rold shook their heads. Arutha began to reach for the human, but Laurie said, "Don't. He's challenging Murad to personal combat. A matter of honor." "Will he accept?" Rold shrugged. "They're a funny lot, the Dark Brothers. Before, some of them are cutthroat renegades, but most are caught up in honor and ritual and the like. Depends on where you find them. If that lot are gang of moss hoppers from North Gabon, they'll simply attack. But if Murad's got a hand of old-fashioned deep forest Dark Brothers under his command, they may not take kindly to him saying no. If he's trying to show some magic powers are backing him, can't rightly refuse to keep their loyalty. But mostly it depends on what Murad thinks about matters of honor." "Whatever the outcome, Baru's throwing them into confusion," observed Martin. Arutha could see the Moradel standing about while the mute stared impassively at Baru. Then Murad waved his hand toward Baru and the others. A Moradel in a cloak rode forward, turning his horse to face Murad, and said something in a questioning tone. The mute motioned again, and the Moradel who confronted him waved the other way. The Moradel riders, except for those wearing black armor, retreated their mounts several yards. One of the humans rode up and turned his horse to face Murad. He shouted something at the Moradel leader, several other humans behind echoing the tones. "Martin," said Arutha, "can you make out what's being said?" "No. But whatever it isn't flattering, that's for sure." Suddenly, Murad drew his own sword and struck the offending human. Another human shouted something and seemed ready to ride forward. But 2 Moradel rode to intercept him. With a sullen expression, the first brigand turned his horse and rode back to join the other humans. Murad again gestured towards the humans and charged his horse. Baru leapt from the rocks and ran a short way forward to take up position. He stood his ground, his sword drawn back to strike. As the horse was almost upon him, Baru lashed out with a circling step that took him from harm's way. The horse nickered in pain as it stumbled. The wounded animal went down. Murad, despite his bulk, rolled from the falling animal and came up, sword still in hand. He was quick and turned in time to meet Baru's attack. The two combatants clashed, steel ringing on steel. Arutha looked about. The dozen black slayers waited quietly, though for how long Arutha did not know. With Murad involved in a matter of honor, they might wait until the issue was decided. The prince fervently hoped so. All eyes watched. Martin said, "Don't let your guard down. As soon as this is over, either way, they'll hit us again." "At least I can catch my breath," said Jimmy. Arutha surveyed the area. 20 more Moradel were approaching the area. All Baru did was buy them time. Murad struck out and was struck in return. Within minutes, both combatants were a mass of bleeding wounds, testimony to how each was able to almost deliver a death blow, but not quite. Cut and parry, lunge and riposte, slash and dodge, the struggle went on. The Hadati was equal in height to the Moradel, but the Dark Elf bulked larger. With a series of overhead clubbing blows, Murad began to drive Baru back. Martin brought his bow to the ready. "Baru's tiring. It'll be over soon." But, like a dancer timing his moves to the music, Baru let Murad fall into a pattern. Up and down the sword rose and fell. Then, when it was rising, Baru ceased his retreat, instead stepping forward and to the side, and with a sweeping cut, he sliced Murad's ribs. It was a deep cut that bled fiercely. "That's a surprise," Martin said calmly. "Damn fine move," said Rold in a professional appreciation. But Murad didn't let the surprising blow finish him. He turned in place, grabbed the Hadati's sword arm. Murad was off balance, but he pulled Baru down with him, and they grappled and rolled down the hill towards the rocks where Arutha stood. Weapons slipped from blood-wet fingers, and the two combatants struck each other with fists. Then they were up again, but Murad had his arms about Baru's waist, hoisting the Hadati into the air. The Moradel placed interlocking hands on the small of Baru's back, squeezing him in attempt to break his spine. But Baru's head went back and he cried out in pain. Then he brought his hands together in a thunderous clap over the Moradel's ears, rupturing his eardrums. Murad gave a warbling, gurgling cry of pain as he dropped Baru. The creature covered his ears with his hands, blinded by pain for a moment. Baru reared back and struck the Moradel in the face with his fist, a staggering blow that pulped Murad's nose, broke some teeth and split his lip. Again Baru struck him in the face, jerking his head back again. The Hadati seemed on the verge of clubbing the Moradel to death. But Murad gripped Baru's wrist and pulled him down, and again they rolled upon the ground. Then Murad was atop Baru, and each had his hands around the other's neck. With grunts of pain and exertion, the two began choking each other. Jimmy reached down and took a dagger from the body of the dead Moradel at his feet to supplement his dirk. Martin said, "Soon, soon." Murad bore down with all his weight, his face turning red, as did Baru's. Neither could breathe, and it was only a question of who succumbed first. Baru bore the bulk of the Moradel atop him, but Murad had a deep wound in his side which still bled, weakening him as every second passed. Then, with a grunt and sigh, Murad fell forward onto Baru. There was silence in the woods for a long moment, before Murad moved. With a roll, he fell over off of Baru. The Hadati slowly rose. Taking a knife from the Moradel's own belt, he slowly cut Murad's throat. Sitting back upon his heels, Baru breathed deeply. Then, with deliberate contempt for his own danger, he plunged his knife deep into Murad's chest. "What's he doing?" asked Rold. Martin said, "Remember that Tathar said about Black Slayers? He's cutting at Murad's heart, just in case he might try to rise again." More Moradale and renegades had joined the company overlooking the combat, and now more than 50 riders watched the Haddati butcher the Moradale chieftain. The Haddati cut down into the chest, then his hand plunged deep within the wound, and with a single jerk he pulled Murad's heart free. Holding his hand up so that all might see, he showed the assembled Moradale and humans that Murad's heart beat no longer. Then he tossed it aside and rose drunkenly to his feet. With a staggering, wobbling run, he tried for the rocks only 10 yards away. A Moradale rider moved to strike him from the side. Jimmy threw his dagger. The point took the creature in the eye, causing him to scream and fall back out of the saddle. But another came at Baru and cut at him. The sword took him in the side, and the Haddati fell forward. "Damn you!" shouted Jimmy near tears. "He won! You could have let him come back!" He threw his dirk, but the other rider dodged. The Moradale who had struck Baru stiffened and turned, and Arutha and his companions saw an arrow in his back. Another Moradale shouted something as he put away his bow. This brought an angry shout from a third and one of the humans. "What's all this?" asked Arutha. Rogue said, "One who killed Baru is a renegade. No honor. A fellow on the horse seems to have the same opinion as Jimmy. The Haddati won. He should have been allowed to return to die with his companions. Now the Slayer, another renegade, and the human bandits are all shouting at one another. We might gain a little time, or at least some of them quit now that their big chieftain is dead." And then the Black Slayers charged. Martin reared up and began firing. The archer's speed was phenomenal. The 3 riders were unhorsed, and they reached the rock abundant. Steel clashed upon steel, and the battle was joined. Road leapt atop the rock, as had Baru before, and his sword also struck out at all who came within his reach. No Moradale could ride in close enough to strike him with their short swords, while his broadsword delivered death to whoever rode within reach. Arutha parried a blow aimed at Lori, then struck upward from the crouch to take a rider. Road leapt and dragged one from the saddle and clubbed him with the hilt of his sword. 7 Moradale died before the others withdrew. Arutha said, "They didn't all charge." The others could see that some of the Moradale had held back, and others were still arguing along with 2 human renegades. A few of the Black Slayers were still mounted, and they were ignoring what transpired with their companions, forming for another charge. Jimmy liberated another dagger from a Moradale just at the edge of the rocks, then noticed something. He tugged at Martin's sleeve. "See that ugly-looking fellow? The one with the fancy red breastplate, and all those gold rings and things?" Martin saw such a one sitting at the head of the human riders. "Yeah. Can you kill him now?" "It's a difficult shot. Why?" "Because as sure as there's elves in the woods, that's Reitz. He's a captain of a band of outlaws. You knock him off, and the others are most likely run away, or at least keep holding back until the new captain's elected." Martin rose up, took aim, and let fly. The shaft sped between the boughs and the trees, and took the indicated rider in the throat. With a snap, his head came off, and he somersaulted backwards out of the saddle. "Amazing!" Martin said. "I had to clear the top of that breastplate." Laurie said dryly, "It's not very sporting, shooting without warning." "You may convey my apologies," said Martin. "I forgot you singers have the heroes acting always that way in your sagas." "If we're heroes," said Jimmy, "the outlaws should run away." True to Jimmy's prediction, the human renegades began muttering among themselves. They were suddenly riding away. One Moradale shouted after them angrily, then waved another attack upon the prince's party. Another Moradale spit on the ground before the first and turned his horse, motioning some companions away as well. 20 or so rode after the humans. Arutha counted.
Fewer than 20 this time. And the slayers.
The riders dismounted, including those who had held back during the previous attack. They discovered that they couldn't close in on the rocks while on horseback. They ran close, using the trees as cover, and fanned out to surround Arutha's position. Rold said, "This is what they should have done the first time."
They're a little slow, but not entirely stupid,
commented Lottie. Jimmy clutched his dagger as the Dark Brothers charged.
I'd have preferred stupidity.
The Mordrell came in a wave, and suddenly there was fighting on all sides. Jimmy leapt away from a sword that came crashing down from above. He thrust upward with his dagger and took the Mordrell in the stomach. Laurie and Rold battled, back to back, surrounded by Dark Brothers. Martin shot until he was out of arrows. Then he grabbed up the Mordrell's bow and arrows. His firing was rapid and accurate, and a dozen more, Dark Brothers were struck before he dropped the bow and pulled his sword. Arutha fought like a man possessed, his rapier delivering injury at every quarter. No Mordrell could get close to remain free of wounds. But the prince knew time would eventually win. The defenders would fatigue and slow, and then they would die. Arutha could feel the strength drain from his arms, and the certainty of death came to him. There was little point in hoping. There were more than 20 Mordrell still standing, and they were but 5. Martin hewed with his sword, cutting all who came before him. Rold and Laurie lunged and parried, giving up only inches, but slowly being worn down by the attackers. The Mordrell leapt over the stone breastwork and spun to face Jimmy. Jimmy acted without hesitation, his stiff sides slowing him only slightly. He lashed out and sliced the Mordrell's hand, causing it to drop its sword. The Dark Brother yanked his belt knife and loosed as Jimmy slashed again, but the Mordrell leapt back, avoiding the boy's cut. Then it closed and was upon Jimmy. The boy slashed wildly, losing his balance and his knife, and the Mordrell was atop him. A knife blade came rushing down towards the boy's face, but he dodged it and it struck the rock. Jimmy gripped the creature's wrist, holding the blade away. The blade came towards his face, for the weakened boy could not hold back the Mordrell's superior strength. Then the Mordrell's head snapped backward, and Jimmy could see a knife drawn across the Dark Elf's throat, leaving a bloody track. The Mordrell was pulled off by the hand gripping his hair, and then the hand extended to Jimmy. Galen stood over the boy and helped him to his feet. Stunned, Jimmy looked about. Hunting horns sounded in the forest, and the air was filled with arrows. The Mordrell retreated before the attacking elves. Martin and Arutha dropped their weapons, slumping in exhaustion. Rold and Doddy collapsed where they stood. Callan ran towards them, directing his elven warriors in pursuit. Arutha looked up, relief bringing tears unbidden to his eyes, and in a hoarse voice he said, "Is it over?" Callan said, "It is, Arutha. For a while. They will be back, but by then we will all be safely within the boundary of our forest. Unless they plan invasion, the Mordrell will not cross that border. Our magic is too strong there." An elf leaned over the body of Baru.
Callan! This one still lives!
Martin lay back on the rocks, panting.
Dotty's tough.
Arutha waved away Galen's hand as he stood, his legs feeling like water.
How far? Less than a mile. We need only cross a small stream and we are in our forest.
Slowly, the survivors of the attack felt a lifting of their hopelessness, for they knew their chances now were excellent. With elven escort, it would be unlikely the Mordrell could muster enough strength to overwhelm them. Even should they mount an attack, with Barad dead, it was likely their leadership would crumble. From the behavior of many Dark Brothers, it was clear he had been the majority of the importance to them. His death would surely weaken Myrmidamis's plans for some time. Jimmy hugged himself, wondering at the chill he felt, for suddenly he was returned to the moment he stood in the cave of Mora Lane. He felt strange dislocation in time, and knew where he had experienced that chill before, twice before. In the palace, in the cellar of the House of Willows. He felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end, and he knew with dread certainty that some magic was being visited upon them. He leapt away from the rock and looked about the glade, pointing and shouting, "Then we better start now! Look!" The body of a black slayer began to move. Martin said,
Can we cut out their hearts? Too late, cried Laurie. They're armoured, and we should have acted at once.
A dozen black slayers were slowly rising and turning to face Arutha's party. Weapons in hand, with tentative steps they began to advance upon the prince. Callan shouted orders, and the elves grabbed up the near-exhausted and wounded men. Two carried Baru between them and started to run. The dead warriors staggered after, their wounds still bleeding, and as they moved, their movements smoothed out, as if some agency was perfecting its control over them. With increased speed, the undead followed. Elven bowmen ran, halted, turned, fired to no effect. The shafts struck the dead Moradel and would rock them, knocking them a few to the ground, but they would only rise again. Wesley, hello, hello! I found a wild Johnny on my For You page is actually reading, but not Harry Potter. Not Harry Potter tonight. Darth Nexus, hello, my friend. Thank you for the heartbeat and for the Go Popular. We are at a very tense part and we're almost done. Drew, hello, my friend. Welcome in. Good to see you. Jimmy looked back, and somehow the view of these creatures running through the bright morning light in the lovely forest was far more horrible than anything he'd seen at the palace or in the sewers of Krondor. Their movements were surprisingly smooth, as they ran after, weapons at the ready. Those elves carrying the injured and fatigued humans kept running while Cullen ordered others to slow the Moradel. The elven warriors drew swords and engaged with the undead creatures. After a few parries, they would retreat. The rear guards slowed the black slayers, but they could not be halted. The elves worked themselves into a pattern. They would turn, fight, retreat a little, fight again, then flee. But the inability to visit harm on their foes served only to delay these, not to end their threat. Panting and fatigued elves labored to halt the inexorable flood. After several minutes, the humans were being half carried, half dragged across a small stream. Callan said, "We enter our forest. Here we will stand." The elves drew swords and waited. Arutha, Martin, Lorien rolled readied weapons and waited. The first Moradel entered the water, sword in hand, splashing towards them. He reached the shore as an elf made ready to strike, but the moment the undead creature placed his foot upon the shore, it seemed to sense that something was behind the elves. The elf struck it to no effect, but the dead black slayer staggered back, raising its hands as if seeking protection. Suddenly a rider sped past the defenders, a figure resplendent in white and gold. Upon the back of a white elf steed, a legendary mystic horse of Elvandar. Thomas charged. The elf steed reared, and Thomas leapt down from its back, and with a golden arc of his sword nearly split the black slayer in twain. Like a raging flame incarnate, Thomas sped along the shore, visiting destruction upon each black slayer as they set forth across the stream. Despite their arcane origin, each was helpless before the combined might of his arm and the Valherum magic. Several managed single blows, which he easily turned aside, answering with a terrible swiftness. His golden sword lashed out, and black armor was cracked as if it was little more than brittle hide. But none of the undead sought to flee. Each came on, and each was quickly dispatched. Of those with Arutha, only Martin alone had seen Tomas in battle before, and even he had never seen such a display. Soon it was over, and only Tomas stood upon the edge of the stream. Then came the sound of more horses. Arutha looked behind and saw more elf steeds approaching, ridden by Tethar and the Spellweavers. Tethar said, "Greetings, Prince of Krondor." Arutha looked up and smiled weakly. "Thank you, to you all." Tomas resheathed his sword and said, "I could travel with you, but once these dead cross the boundary of our forest, I could act. Elvendar is mine to preserve. Any who dare invade will be treated as these." "The Kalain," he said. "Build a funeral pyre. Those black demons shall never rise again." And he said to the others, "When it is done, we shall return to Elvendar." Jimmy fell back upon the grass of the stream bank, his body too sore and too tired to move. Within moments, he was asleep. They feasted the next night. Queen Aglarana and Prince Tomas hosted Arutha and his companions. Galain approached where Martin and Arutha sat and said, "Baru will live. Our healer says he's the toughest human he's seen." "How long before he's up again?" asked Arutha. "A long time," said Galain. "You'll have to leave him here with us. By rights, he should have died an hour before we got there. He's lost a lot of blood, and some of those cuts are severe. Murad almost crushed his spine and his windpipe." "Other than that, he'll be good as new," said Rold across the table. Lottie said, "When I get home to Carline, I promise to never leave again." Jimmy came to sit next to the prince. "You look thoughtful for one who's pulled off the impossible. I thought you'd be happy." Arutha ventured a smile. "I won't be until Anita is cured." "When do we ride home?" "We go to Kradi in the morning. The elves will escort us there. Then we take ship to Krondor. We should be back in time for the festival of Banapis. If Mamandamas can't find me with his magic, a ship should be safe enough. Unless you'd prefer to riding back the way we came." Jimmy said, "Not likely. There might still be more of those black slayers about, and I'll take drowning over another run-in with them any time." "Mons, hello my friend, welcome in, good to see you. Forgot Storytime was starting earlier now. That's alright, Molly Sue, I'm glad you made it in. Oh, ads in 2. Let me see if I I get us, I can get us done before then. We're gonna snooze this. I can get us done before then. We're almost at the end of the chapter.
Yes, finally figured out.
Hang on, I'm on a timer, you're gonna have to give me a minute. I have 5 minutes to finish this chapter before ads run. Give me a minute. Then we'll get to it. Martin said, "It'll be good to see Kradi again. I'll have much to see. Getting my house in order. Sid Samuel will be at wit's end with the estate management, though I'm sure Baron Bellamy has done well enough running things in my absence. But there will be much to do before we leave." "Leave for where?" said Arutha. In an innocent tone, Martin said, "Why, for Krondor, of course." But his gaze travelled northward, and silently he echoed his brother's thoughts. Up there was Mermandamus, and a battle yet unjoined. The issue was not decided, only the first skirmish. With the death of Murad, and the forces of darkness had lost a captain. He'd been pushed back, retiring in disorder. But they were not vanished, and not vanquished. And they would return, if not tomorrow, then some other day. Arutha said, "Jimmy, you've acted with wit and bravery, beyond what is required of a squire. What reward shall you have?" Biting a large rib of elk, the boy replied, "Well, you still need a Duke of Krondor." Jimmy's been trying to get Arutha to make him Duke of Krondor forever. Kai! Long time no see. Hello! Thank you for the galaxy and for the Deenies. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Hello, hello. And Stephanie, hello, welcome in. I was eyes down the whole time. Hello! Thank you for the tips, love. You 2 galaxies, a Heartbeat and all of the Deenies. Good Lord. Thank you kindly, love. Cheers for that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Stephanie, hello. Kai, it's good to see you. We haven't seen you in so long. I'm glad that you came in. Good and well greetings. Matty is saying hello. We've missed you too. I'm glad that you made it back. And you're just in time. I'm gonna pop up and check on the lady real quick. But we have a story that was written by Frost. Yes, so very good. I love it here as well. I'm so glad to have you. But Kai, it's incredibly generous of you. Thank you for the galaxies, for the Heartbeat, and for the Deenies. You warm my heart. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Thank you for the generosity. Sorry I was gone for so long. Life hit me pretty hard, and I'm coming out of it. You don't have to apologize for anything. The tavern has your seat nice and warm. You just need to fill a glass and settle in. And you're actually coming back just in time. The lady and I just recently started putting out stories regularly again. So you'll have plenty of stories to keep you entertained and on the way. Frost says he was thinking of you today, and he's, yeah, it's been a while since Drew's been in as well. We've had quite a few old regulars find their way back today. Absolutely wonderful. I am so glad to have you back. And Wesley gets to be in for a good long story time today, and Herring is in. We've got so many good folk in today. Alright. Kai says, hello, my dear Frost. Frost says he was thinking of you today. Everybody heard that Frost's story was going to be read, so they showed up. Okay. Hillary Potter, hello, good to see you. Alright, I'm going to pop up, I'm going to go check on the lady, and then I will be right back. And we will read Frost's story. All right, my friends, I have returned. Frost dropping in for a hello over on TikTok. Christine, hello, welcome in. Okay, friends. Okay, so let's see. We are just 13 pages from the end of Silverthorn, so we're definitely finishing Silverthorn tonight. So what we are going to do, in place of songs for the middle, we're going to read Frost's story. Kai, thank you for the hard hands. I appreciate you, love. Thank you kindly. We do Harry Potter on Thursdays, Wesley. We do one book per story time now, so that everybody can be in for the story that they want to be in for. So we'll be finishing up book 6 of Harry Potter probably on Thursday, actually. We'll be at the end of the Half-Blood Prince on Thursday. And then we will have all new books starting next week. Heck of a ride. Alright, so let's go ahead. We are going to... Tuesday is about the adult book, Thursday is about the family-friendly book. Correct. Well, catch up, Wesley, catch up. They're all there. I actually have to take them all private this month. So if you are behind on these stories, they all have to be... I have to put them all private this month. So if you want to get caught up on the readings, I suggest you do it. Because at the end of September, they all have to be put to unlisted. They're all still up on YouTube for these last 2 books, but I have to put them aside. Correct. Sunday is now when Una reads. So we're gonna read A Night at the Tavern by Frostbeard. This was a story written by our resident frosted bearded gentleman, requested by Bear. And it is a story written about the tavern and the many strange and interesting denizens that live within. I can't get over how well Chapter 24 is turning out with the edits. Literally 3 major plot threads during a huge fight. Just because they're taking up a lot of the timeline. They look like published videos, and people get confused thinking that I've put out videos when I haven't. Quirt, thank you for the bits, my friend, and enjoy your eggs of a starter there. Cheers, bro, thank you kindly. Jaeger, hello! Good to see you, my son. Quirt, thank you. Gosh, you guys are being so generous tonight. Thank you kindly for that, my friends. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated, brother. Thank you kindly. Every tip to the Tavern Keeper goes towards creating more stories, goes towards making more of these wonderful story times, and to the eventual building of the physical tavern, as well as the tavern village. Whenever you guys watch videos, whenever you cheer, whenever you donate, whenever you tip the Tavern Keeper, that's what everything goes towards. So we appreciate everything. You're making the Lady and I's dreams come true, and hopefully, in turn, we're helping to make your dreams come true. Yes, that's true. Well, that's in exchange for a service, though. But it is still, the business is appreciated, Matty. Alright, so we're gonna read A Night at the Tavern. And to all of you who show up and watch and like and share, I appreciate you all. It means the world, and it does help more than you could know. Alright, let's begin. A Night at the Tavern by Frostbeard. As my mind runs through the past few days, my feet keep me going in the right direction. I've been on this path more times than I can remember. Turn after turn brings me closer to my home away from home. Anyone that was following me would think I was just wandering into the woods. They couldn't be further from the truth. Rounding the final curve, behind a grove of trees, I see it. A small set of standing stones marking what looks like a druid circle. I head to the right, coming to the third set of stones, stopping in front of him, turning to face into the circle, my hands reaching out to caress the familiar surface, smooth and cool to the touch, but a welcomed feeling all the same. Before I step between the upright stones to stand in the archway, I look up. To see the all too familiar mark of the black dragon. Reaching up, I touch a series of spots on the cover stone and step through. The portal opening as I do, and closing once I'm completely through. You see, the Black Dragon Tavern is only known for those that love lore and stories. Its very existence arose from the desire to give adventurers a place to rest their tired bodies and enjoy the telling of a grand story. There are some stories that are told for the sake of learning and others for the joy of entertainment. Yet, no matter the reason, it is the stories themselves that draw the travelers here time and time again. It has become my home while I'm traveling. And I have family here that I have grown to love. I am sure if I ask the others who frequented the tavern, that it has become the same for them. It is shown in the way we all guard the sanctity of the tavern. It is a place of comfort, solace, and community that is held in high regard. Anyone who dares to disturb this sacred space is quickly dealt with in one way or another. Once inside, my eyes take a few minutes to adjust to the lighting. I inhale deeply, taking in all the familiar scents that have come to mean comfort and happiness. A small grin coming to my face as I do. The first sight to greet me is the familiar sign hanging over the bar. Welcome, traveler. Take comfort and enjoy your stay. A black dragon's head looking over the top, and its wings forming the frame. I slowly take in the familiar sights, and the troubles of my travels begin to fade away. There are pictures hung on the wall that were carved by patrons to celebrate their time here. Other small gifts are displayed around the room as well, all from travelers who supported the tavern in some way or another. Scanning the room, I see a lot of familiar faces and a few new ones. Nodding to the barkeep with a wink, I unsling my pack from my back as I start heading to my normal spot in the corner. The booming baritone voice echoes across the room. Rost! Welcome back, brother! Grab a seat, the stories are just about to begin. I drop my packs on the floor and slide into my seat. Doing just that, Castle. So glad to be back home. I called back to the tavern owner. Castle, the owner of the tavern, is a mountain of a man. His look is that of a dwarf at twice its normal size, standing a good head taller than most with a barrel-thick chest and shoulders to match. The sides of his head clean-shaven, only highlighting his dark hair that flowed down around his back in a broad swath, matched by his long, full beard that ran down to his chest. By his size and stature, one would think Castle was a fighter through and through. Once again, a falsity. His family gave him 2 gifts to carry through his life. They taught him the barding ways so that he could carry his family's traditions. They were storytellers and historians, keeping the ancient knowledge alive. At the same time, they showed him the family magic. His clan was druidic for as long as history had been recorded. It was always passed down from elder to youth, nurtured and tended as the younger family members discovered their talents. Some were adept with animals, others could heal. Castle had been blessed with the ability to shape change. As legend has it, one day while reading up on a family story where one of his ancestors had shifted into the form of a black sea dragon, Castle had done the very same thing. Only his form was more of a land and air drake. It is the same legend that lent itself to the name of the very tavern he built. Once the young ones had reached the time of passing on to being an adult, They were let in on the reason they were given both gifts at an early age. You see, the stories they told, and still tell to this day, are what keep the family's magic alive. I looked down briefly and then back up, only to find the barkeep smiling down at me. I smiled back and gave another small wink. "Evening, Scorch Queen. How goes the night?" I asked. She chuckles before answering. "It's a busy night, which is always a good thing. How have your travels been?" "They've treated me well, as you can see. I was able to make it in for a story or two," I replied. "Another good thing. What can we get you?" she asked. "A nice, strong, dark ale if you have one left," I said. "Coming right up, Frost," she stated as she turned to head back to the bar. My attention turned to the rest of the patrons now. I catch a glimpse of Milu and Esther in their normal seats, enjoying a drink as they settled in for the upcoming entertainment. Esther's faithful pup Elsie curled up by her side, her head resting on Esther's lap as she starts to drift off. Then I spy Bear sitting at his table of tavern wares, doing his best to entice tavern goers to take something home in support of the establishment. Another portal flashes and a few more regulars wander in, Kai scooting up to the bar like always, immediately striking up a conversation with the captain. Matt followed her in, finding a table close to the stage, front and center where he could be seen by all. The chair next to him slowly started to fill with scrolls and parchment pages that he used to create his own tales and share them with others. He carried them with him always, just in case the muse struck him. My eye was then caught by Castle walking over to the opposite corner of the tavern, leaning down to give his beloved wife a touch of affection and make sure she was cared for. If ever there was a contrast between couples, it was them. Una was a waif of a woman compared to her husband, slight in figure with a demure carriage, her head barely reaching to her husband's shoulder. Their love for the tavern that they had created was only outdone by the love they had for each other. A quick flash of light off one of the small metal plaques catches my eye. They are attached to almost every one of the stools and tables. Each one has a name, and a small thank you for the donation made to help the tavern, marking a major change for all of us travelers, and where we heard the stories we love. The tavern wasn't always the long house of stone and timber we sit in today. Originally, the portals all led to a sacred grove that was protected in several ways. First was that it can only be reached through the portals. After that, there was a thick wall of thorns surrounding the grove, several protective sigils and staves encircling the outside thorns. If that wasn't enough, there was a shimmering globe of magic shielding beyond both of those deterrents. The inside was very simple, but still comfortable and inviting. The stools were stumps to sit on, and the tables were made of stone. The bar was the only piece of furniture built from planks and sawed lumber, complete with shelves for storing tankards and bottles of mead. The stone central fire ring glows with images of different woodland creatures. The trees that formed the walls lent their branches to form a canopy over the tavern. Castle's original chair was made from woven branches of a small oak tree, which was sung together by his wife, Una. Yes, I said sung together. You see, Una is a spell singer and artificer, a master of her crafts with both magic and tools. Her craftsmanship could be seen throughout the tavern, starting with the sign that greets you. She designed the tankards, the bar stools, the bar, and shelves behind it, even down to the candles that lit the room from the table to the rafters. Just about every bit of the tavern was sung into being by her. Then, one day, Castle and Una let it be known that they were looking for a new place to build a proper tavern. There were murmurs of surprise at the news, and soon after, there was a mention of the amount of gold they would be trying to save to get the tavern built, which caused something to happen that was unexpected and unprecedented. Slowly, standing one by one, each and every traveler made their way to the stage. Once there, they stooped and set a few pieces of gold at the top step, in front of the oaken chair. Once they had made it back to their respective places, they all remained standing. When the last tip was made and the final traveler went back to their seat, they all bowed towards the couple. Castle and Una stood speechless for a moment until Castle started shaking his head. No, we didn't share our plans to ask for money. We can't take this from you. Your support has been and always will be more than we could have ever asked for. He looked down at Una and she nodded in agreement. As if to make a final statement, the captain walked up and placed a few more pieces on the stage. She then turned around to face the couple. We're helping to build our home. You two created this for us. This is the least we could do. A loud cheer erupted from the room as the rest of the patrons, somewhere in the middle of the group, arose a loud shout, "For the stories!" which was echoed by the whole tavern. The results are seen on those small plaques all over the tavern. Trees have a special place in Castle's clan, which is why the grove had been chosen at first. Now it has become time to create a new home for the sharing of stories. So when the longhouse was built, 4 massive trees had been used to form the 4 corners. It was on another sacred spot that Castle and Una had discovered. Nowhere else had they ever found these 4 types of trees going near one another. An oak, an ash, a rowan, and an elm had found the same ground to spread their roots, and that formed a natural boundary for the building. This time, the trees called the storytellers. As if it wasn't enough, there was a hawthorn a short way off to guard the surrounding land. They took it as a sign and built the new tavern on that very spot. More portals flash all around, bringing me back from my memories. The tavern seats filling with more travelers, the call of the stories bringing them before the stories begin. I catch Wesley and Ashley, Crimson and Santana, and several other regulars take up their normal seats, greeting Castle, each one as they entered. The captain was right. It was a very busy night. As if on cue, my ale was dropped off by the very woman I had just thought about. Thank you again, Captain. What a grand night this will be for sure. We haven't seen it this busy in a while. I'm really looking forward to it, Captain answered back. If you need a hand, give a shout. I call out as she runs off. I get a wink and a smile from over her shoulder as she keeps moving back to the bar. Make sure you get your drinks and grab a seat and settle in. It's almost story time. Castle announces to the tavern as he brings his tankard to the stage, setting on the table next to his throne-like chair. His next stop was at the shelves on the wall behind the dais to choose the stories for the evening. Turning back around, he set down 2 gilt volumes with several bookmarks throughout each one. Then, with a wave of his hand, the candles around the stage had lit. To those new to the tavern, this was an amazing sight. To those of us who were regulars, it was a sign of good things to come. He then takes his seat and opens one of the books he took down, clears his throat, and looks back up at the tavern. For those of you who are new here, I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I might even read you a bedtime story. So sit back and enjoy, for we have all come here for the same thing, to share in some stories. He looks down at the pages open before him and launches into the first tale, his voice weaving a tapestry of sights and sounds before our very eyes, each character identified by the distinct voice he gave them. As the story continues to unfold, the room transforms into scenes he masterfully translates. I did mention that the tavern was magical. This is how it all happens. As Castle weaves the stories, our visions bring them to life. You see, the desire to hear the tale is all the magic that is needed for the tavern to come alive. And that, my friends, is the end of a spectacular tale written by our very own Frost. Why does the music match the story imagery so perfectly? Was this play? It wasn't. I have a playlist going in the background. Cheers, Frost. Thank you for the story, my friend. Which I still maintain is overly flattering to myself. Perfectly flattering of the lady. Her voice does in fact have magic in it. Caught a brief mention of myself, which is neat. Is there a part 2, Castle? Is there a part 2? If not, I'm calling Castle. There is not a part 2. This is the original one and only story. It is lovely, Frost. It's very well put together, and it's very flattering. And it really is. It is an ode to all of you. Really a memorandum of all of the wonderful things that you all allow to do here in the tavern. You certainly are, Cristalla. See, there are some of you, what I consider to be regulars, as far as you all go, are those of you who feel like you have a seat here. That you feel like you can show up at any time, everyone will remember you, or at least most will remember you, and you sit and you enjoy the stories when you come in, you converse with the other regulars, and you enjoy yourselves while you're here. That's what I consider to be the qualification to be a regular in the tavern. Castle, I enjoyed the story from Frost. I was unable to hear it in full, as I'm usually busy at this time. That's alright, Esther. Luckily, you'll be able to go back and listen to it if you want. I'm smiling so much right now. It's all about Jaeger, always has been. Oh, alright, my friends. Well, I think it's time that we can get back into Silverthorn. We've got about an hour left in Storytime, and we have 13 pages left. So I think we can do this, and then we'll have enough time for songs at the end. How about that? And sometime in the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna read that out and put it out as a proper Storytime. I remember the first time Captain greeted me, and it made me feel welcome. Hell yes. But yeah, I'll have a proper reading of that done probably this next week. Next 2 weeks sometime. Alright, let's get back into the story, friends. We're almost done. 13 pages left to the end of this epic tale. Let me refill my tankard though. Frost, you're gonna have to add in a new paragraph where Destiny and Milu and Erin are selling Matty to women who come into the bar. Marissa greeted me first, then Destiny. Now Destiny is basically a sister to me. True enough. I don't chat much, but I adore every minute of the lives. I play games and puzzles on my iPad during. Belinda, you've been around for a while too, though. I think that you're probably coming up on more than a year in story times with us. Yeah, that's why she's the lead barmaid. That's for sure. Richie Loth Love Feist. I had never heard of Raymond E. Feist before this was recommended for story time. We had a couple of different patrons who were on about this one, Richie. And we started with the Rift War. We started with Magician Apprentice and Magician Master. And I probably would not have picked it up myself because the first book is so slow. but I am so glad that it was picked by the community so that I was forced to read it, because it's an incredible book. Absolutely exceptional. And this one has been a roller coaster ride, to be sure. I'm not sure there is a second chapter in this, at least not yet. We'll have to wait until we actually get the tavern built to get another one. A small, skinny, and slightly used Canadian for sale. I write stories for personal enjoyment and do not sell them. Was Esther responding to something that I said? Did I say something about selling stories? Or was that a response to something else? I mean, she basically got this thing in my channel where I apparently like pineapple. Well, whatever you do with your free time. I heard about it, Wesley. If I can figure out a good enough story, there just might be. Yes, I wasn't fortunate to discover you back then. By the way, I'm in Lisbon, Portugal. It's 2:46 a.m. Are you really, Belinda? I didn't realize that you were in Portugal. Oh wait, you're not? Are you from? You're not from Portugal, are you? I was coming fortunate to discover you about then. Oh, wonderful. Are you from Portugal, Belinda? I don't know how I would have missed that. But that's fascinating. If it is, but are you saying that you're there now? Or that do you live in Portugal? You've been in here so long, I don't know how I didn't see that if that's the case. No, okay. I was just making sure I didn't miss something. Well, and this one of the things that I've always struggled with, Esther, is that I write stories and I tell stories because it is what I do. But with the amount of work that goes into what the lady and I do, we don't really charge for anything. Like, most of what we put out for free. And we do that intentionally because we don't want people to have to pay for the stories. The only reason why we're even thinking about publishing books is because people have asked us for it. I'm originally from Sioux City, then Chicago 30 years ago, LA 5 years, Lisbon. Wow, that's amazing. I don't know how I missed that. Because there's a couple of folks who will call, like, where is everybody from? Where's everybody visiting the tavern from? Where is everybody's portal coming from? I don't know how I missed. I was a foreign exchange student to Brazil after high school, and I learned Portuguese. That's amazing. Yeah, Portugal is beautiful. There are a lot of really beautiful places in Portugal. Well, gotta pay the tavern for somehow, Matty, right? Because I write stories for personal enjoyment. I may consider publishing a book in the future. Well, and again, like my family, we're all storytellers, and our culture is to record and pass on stories. And I only ever wrote stories for my brothers, and I never really even considered publishing. And it's only now because of you all that I've even considered publishing books. And if I could, I'd just give them away for free. But unfortunately, I can't feed my wife and child off for free, and this takes up a lot of time. I don't want to ever make anybody feel like they have to pay for the experience of the tavern, though. A business about you, not with you. Yeah. All right, let's continue story time, friends. We are going on to the next chapter. I'm a night owl. Staying up late is worth it, Castle. I'm glad that you spend your time with us, Belinda, even when it is late. Although it is amazing that it's well, I guess it's easier for you to get in now that we're doing it earlier, though. So that's good. Because if before you were still dropping in when we were doing it at what would have been 6 and 7 in the morning for you. Well, I look forward one day to maybe reading one of your books then, Esther. Speaking of books, I finally have the ability to get your festival's book. How do I find it? It looks like this, Cristalla. And it will be, Norse Gaelic Festivals by J.D. Castle. There's only one version of this. And you can either go to the Black Dragon Tavern shop, or you can find it on Amazon. Either way, it's... If you buy it from the shop, it comes directly from us. If you buy it from Amazon, it's through their print company. And either way is fine. Like, there's no real difference between the two. Whenever you do, Matty, it is always appreciated. Like, there's a reason why I don't push merch and stuff, because even though, like, the lady and I put 80 hours a week into running the tavern, and we do also extra work on the side so that we can afford to pay bills and whatnot. But I don't push merchandise and things like that because I don't want it to be about that. I would rather you guys just get to enjoy the stories. And I know that, like, especially Bear and Destiny get really grumpy with me for not pushing more to have people get merchandise and things like that. It's so far outside of my nature to want to do it. But I do appreciate anybody who buys anything from us. It really means the world to the lady and I. Sinomi, hello. But yes, the earlier time is better for me. Excellent, Belinda. Hopefully it's going to be better for everyone. Pushing merch is... Yep, that's right. Bear is our resident merchant. He's over in the corner hawking merch all the time. First one is the Amazon listing. Second is the website shop. Thank you, Destiny Love. I appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to get back into reading and we'll chat more near the end. I considered buying a shirt, but Portugal charges 20 VAT tax on imports. That is insane. That's so much. Thing is, I don't buy merch anymore. It's too hard to have it sent to Australia. Yeah. Well, that's actually what I was just going to bring up. Yeah, stuff just disappears behind me. It's part of the magic. I can make things appear and disappear. I see what you... Aha! I'm a magician. Yeah, I was just going to say that, Esther, is that it's so expensive to send anything to Australia. Like, we have quite a few tavern patrons who are in Australia, and it's so expensive to send anything there. No one wants to know what I paid for my tavern shirts. I still can't believe that you bought them, Bear. I appreciate it, but it's still the number of things that Bear has bought, in spite of the heavy import taxes. It's the man is a true blue. Like, he puts his money where his mouth is. He says that he supports the tavern all the way to the end, and he just throws those dollars down to prove it. I know when Bear gets my book, I'd rather ship him myself to Australia. Yeah, when we have the Creatures of Yggdrasil and everything done, I'll probably just mail Bear stuff from us. It's fantastic to see how... Okay, the earlier time makes it easier for me to get up for work the next day. Wonderful, Mary Beth. I think that the earlier time is just going to be better for everybody. Okay, let's go ahead and... I'm still here writing stories, manga. Wonderful, Sinomi. That's wonderful to hear. I always love when you guys tell me that you're doing something that you love and that you're making something. If I get money, I'll see about buying something too if I can. I appreciate you, Wesley. Wesley, I'm just glad that you still show up, my son. I'm glad that you still pop in. I know, Esther, and you... How has she been feeling, by the way? How has Elsie been feeling? I am weird. Okay, you guys are having... Don't you dare. I'm also going to eat any shipping and tariffs for shipping my book. I mean, Bear is so wonderful, we should just all buy Bear presents, if we're being honest. We should send him honey and other things that bears love. Alright, let's continue, friends. We're on to chapter 19. Continuation. I'll send him a skinny Canadian, that's for sale. The riders reined in. Staring upward, they studied the mountain tops. that marked the boundaries of their land. The great peaks of the high wall. For 2 weeks, 12 riders had picked their way through the mountains until they had journeyed beyond the normal limits of the Surani patrols. Above the timberline, they moved slowly through the pass. It had taken days to locate. They were seeking something no Surani had searched for in ages, a way through the high wall into the northern tundra. It was cold in the mountains, an alien experience for most of the riders, except for those who had served on Midkemia during the years of the Rift War. To the young soldiers of the Shinzawi household guard, this cold was a strange and almost frightening thing. But they showed no sign of their discomfort, except for to absently draw their cloaks more tightly about their shoulders. As they studied the odd whiteness on the peaks, hundreds of feet yet above their heads, they were Surani. Pug, still in the black robes of a great one, turned to his companion.
Short way from here, I think, O'Connor.
The young officer nodded and signaled his patrol forward. For weeks, the younger son of the Lord of the Shinzawi had led this escort beyond the limits of the Empire's northern borders, following the river Gagajin to its highest source, a nameless lake in the mountains. The hand-picked warriors, had passed the trials, followed by patrols of the Empire of the Suanurani. Here, the wild, rock-strewn, seemingly desolate lands between the Empire and the tundra of the north, home to the Thun nomads. Even with a great one in attendance, O'Connor felt vulnerable. Should the Thun tribe be migrating nearby when they came out of the mountains, there would be a score or more of their young warriors running as flankers, seeking any excuse to take a Surani head as a trophy. Just finished editing the next chapter of my book. Spectacular, Sage. I have my own beehive. It was a good choice popping in here tonight. Wasn't expecting story time, because I forgot Tuesday was story day, but it's helped my mood some, admittedly. Well, good, Wesley. I'm glad to hear it. And I'm glad so many old faces have dropped in, and some new ones as well. It's always good to see you all. You make my night when you spend it with me. They rounded a bend in the trail, and a narrow gap in the mountains provided a glimpse of the lands beyond. For the first time, they could see the vast expanse of the tundra. Vaguely perceived in the distance a long, white barrier. Sandri, I thank you for the heart, mate. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Zach, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Gasps in Korean. Welcome in, brother. Good to see you. For the first time, they could see the vast expanse of the tundra vaguely perceived in the distance. A long, low, white barrier could be made out.
What is that?
Said Pug. O'Connor shrugged, his face an implacable Surani mask.
I do not know, Great One. I suspect it's another range of mountains across the tundra. Or perhaps it's that thing you described. The wall of ice. A glacier.
O'Connor said.
Whatever. It lies to the north, where you said the watchers may be.
Pug looked behind them at the 10 silent riders, and then he asked.
How far?
O'Connor laughed.
Farther than we can ride in another month without starving. We shall have to stop to hunt. I doubt there's a great deal of game about. More than one would think, Great One. The Thun struggle to reach their traditional southern ranges every winter. The lands have held for over 1,000 years, but they will somehow survive winters here. Those of us who have wintered on your world know how to forage in snow country. There will be creatures like your rabbits and deer once we drop back down to the timberline. We will survive.
Destiny, thank you. Richie, I appreciate you giving it a look. Thank you, my friends. It has been a fair minute, but I'm glad you dropped in, Zach. Thank you for the Deenies, brother. Sandria, thank you for the heart me as well as for the Deenies. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated, my friends. Pug weighed his choices. After a moment of silent consideration, he said,
I don't think so, Hokonu. You may be right, but if what I hope to find is only a legend, then we shall have all come for no good reason. I may return to your father's home by my arts, and I could manage to take a few of you with me, 3 or even 4. But the rest, no. I think it's time for a parting.
Okonu began to object, for his father had ordered him to protect Pug, but Pug wore the black robe.
Your will, Great One.
He signalled to his men.
Pass up half your food, he said to Pug. There will be enough here to keep you fed for a few more days, if you eat sparingly, Great One.
When the food had been gathered in 2 large travel bags and hung behind Pug's saddle, Hokonu motioned for his men to wait. The magician and the officer rode forward a short way, and the son of the Shinzawi said,
Great One, I have given thought to the warning you bring on your quest.
He seemed to find it difficult to speak his mind.
You've brought much into my family's life, not all of it good. But like father, I've always believed that you were a man of honor, one without guile. If you believe this legendary enemy to be a cause behind all the troubles on your homeworld you've spoken of, and if you think it about to find your world and ours, I must also believe. I admit to fear, Great One. I'm ashamed.
Zach, thank you for the heart me flex. I appreciate you for that, brother. Thank you kindly. Thank you for dropping the link, Destiny. I appreciate you. Actually, it might not show up because you're not modded. Hang on. I don't know. Yeah. I'll unhide it. There we go. And just in case it doesn't want to let you do it, we'll also... I'll post that as well. There we go. Being a bit of a bugger, that is. Kind of your job. Well, you are the head barmaid, that's for sure. Zach, thank you for the banana and the heart me flex. I appreciate you, brother. By the way, to everyone who likes and shares over on TikTok, it is appreciated. It does help others see the story time. So when you do that, it makes it so that others get to enjoy the stories as well. So thank you kindly, my friends. Castle, Elsie's health is good and she's doing well. Spectacular. It's the best news we could get. I can help if needed while I'm not being sold to the highest bidder. Well, apparently that's your job now, Matty, is to be sold to the highest bidder. Pug shook his head.
There's no shame, O'Connor. The enemy is something beyond any of our understanding. I know you think it's a thing of legend, something spoken of when you were a small boy and your teachers began to instruct you in the history of the Empire. Even I, who have seen it in mystic vision, even I do not fathom it, save to count it as the greatest threat our worlds imaginable. No, Hokonu, there is no shame. I fear its coming, I fear its power, and its madness, for it is a thing of mindless enrage and hate. I doubt the sanity of any who did not fear it.
Hokonu lowered his head in agreement, then looked at the magician in the eyes.
Malamba, Pug, thank you for the ease you brought to my father.
He spoke of the message Prog had carried from Kasumi.
May the gods of both worlds watch over you, Great One.
He bowed his head as a sign of respect, and then silently turned his mount around. In a short while, Pug sat alone atop the pass through which no Surani had ridden in ages. Below him lay the forests of the north slope of the high wall, beyond them the ranges of the Thun, and beyond the tundra, a dream or legend perhaps. The alien creatures seen briefly in a vision each magician endured as he passed his final testing for the black robe. Those creatures known only as the Watchers. It was Pug's hope they possessed some knowledge of the enemy, some knowledge that might prove the difference in the coming battle. For as Pug sat atop his tired mount on the wind-swept heights of the greatest mountains on Calawan's largest continent, he was certain some great struggle had begun, a struggle that could mean the destruction of two worlds. Pug urged his horse forward, and the animal began moving downward toward the tundra and the unknown. All right, Wesley, have a good night, my son. Be safe. Always lovely to see you. Excellent, Richie. Glad you were able to get him in low. Pug pulled back on the reins. Since leaving Hokonu's patrol, he had seen nothing in the hills as he rode down toward the tundra. Now, a day out of the foothills, a band of Thun were speeding to meet him. The centaur-like creatures hooted their battle songs as they ran, their powerful hooves beating the tundra in rhythmic concussion. But unlike the legendary centaur, the upper portion of this creature looked like some form of lizard that had grown to man shape above the torso of a heavy horse or mule. Like all other native life forms on Calawan, they were hexapedal, and as with all other intelligent native races, the insectoid Choja, the upper limbs had developed into arms. Unlike humans, they had 6 fingers. Pug waited quietly until the Thun were almost upon him. Then he erected a mystic barrier and watched as they crashed into it. The Thun were all large, warrior males, though Pug couldn't really imagine what a female of the species must look like. Still, these creatures, for all their alien appearance, acted as Pug would have expected young human warriors to act under the same circumstances. Confused and angry, several beat ineffectively against the barrier while the others retreated a short way off to observe. Then Pug removed the cape of the Shinzawi lord had given him for the journey, and through the haze of the mystic barrier, one of the Thun saw him wearing the black robe and shouted to his companions. They turned and fled. For 3 days they followed him at a respectful distance. Some ran off, and for a time those remained were joined by other Thun. This leaving and returning, some Thun always behind, continued unabated. At night, Pug erected a circle of protection about himself and his mount, and when he awoke the next morning, the Thun still watched. Then, on the 4th day, the Thun finally made peaceful contact. A single Thun trotted toward him, awkwardly holding his hands above his head, palms together in the Surani parley sign. Pug could see, as he came up to him, they had sent an elder. "Honors to your tribe," said Pug, hoping the creature could speak Surani. An almost human chuckle answered, "That's a first that is, Black One. Never honor have man given to me." The speech was heavily accented, but understandable, and the strange Saurian features were surprisingly expressive. The Thun was unarmed, but old scars showed that he had once been a powerful warrior. Now age had robbed it of much of its vigor. Pug's expression a suspicion. "You are the sacrifice." "My life is yours to take. Bring down your skyfire, if you wish. But not, I think, your wish. Again the chuckle. Black ones, the Thune have faced. And why are one near the age of leaving should you take? Skyfire can a whole band burn. No, you move for purposes your own. Do you not? Troubling those soon left to face the ice hunters, the pack killers. A purpose of yours is not. Pug studied the Thune, and he was almost at the day when he would be too old to keep pace with the moving band, when the tribe would abandon him to the predators of the tundra. Your age brings wisdom. I have no contention with the Thune. I simply seek to pass to the north. Thune, a Suroni word. We are Lasur. The people, black ones have I seen. You're a troublesome lot. Fight almost won. Then black ones, Skyfire bring. Suroni fight bravely. And Suroni hint, great trophy is. But black ones, leaving Lasura in peace. Your business usually is not. Why all rangers seek you to cross. There is a grave danger from ages ago, long gone. It is a danger to all on Calawan, to the Thune as well as the Suroni. I think there are those who may know that the danger may be met, those who live high in the ice. He pointed to the north. The old warrior reared up like a startled horse, and Pug's own mount shielded away. Them mad Blackfoot northward go. Death awaits there. Fire that you shall. Those who in ice live, none welcome. And the Lasora seek no contest with madmen seek. Those who do a mad one harm, or by the gods harm done, touched by the gods you are. He dashed off. Pug felt both relief and fear. For the Thune to know those who live in the ice showed that there was a chance the Watchers were neither fiction nor long vanished into the past. But the Thune warning caused him to fear for his mission. What waited for him high in the ice of the north? Pug moved away as the Thune band vanished over the horizon. The winds blew down off the ice, and he pulled his cloak about him. Never had he felt this alone. Kayla, hello, hello! Good to see you and welcome in. I got more issues than newspaper subscriptions. While the stew is stewing, it will be dinner in about an hour or so. Sounds delicious, Tyson. That's why I'm here drinking. Found his way into a magical tavern to get a drink because he's got so many issues. Yeah, why the hell not, right? More weeks had passed, and the horse had died. It was not the first time Pug had subsisted on horse meat. Pug used his arts to transport himself short distances, but mostly he walked. Vagueness about time disturbed him more than any danger. He had no sense of the enemy's imminent attack. For all he knew, the enemy might need years to actually enter Mid-Kemia. Whatever else, he knew he couldn't still possess the power it displayed in the vision of the time of the Golden Bridge. Otherwise, it would have swept into Mid-Kemia, and no power on the planet could have stopped it. Pug's routine became a dully monotonous. As he continued northward, he would walk until he topped a slight rise and would fix his vision on a distant point. With concentration, he would transport himself there, but it was tiring and a little dangerous. Fatigue dulled the mind, and any mistake in the spell used to gather the energy needed to move him could cause him harm or even kill him. So he would walk until he felt sufficiently alert, and at a place conducive to such casting of a spell. Zach, thank you for the DDs, brother. I appreciate you, mate. You guys are all being so generous tonight. Thank you for all of the tips to the Tavern Keeper. I appreciate you all. But thank you for the Deanies, Zach. You and Kai and Sandria are knocking it out of the park over there. Then, one day, he had seen something strange in the distance. An odd feature seemed to rear up above the icy cliff. It appeared vague, too far away to be seen clearly. He sat down. There was a spell of far-seeing, the one used by magicians of the lesser path. He remembered it as if he had read it a moment before. A faculty of his mind that had somehow been enhanced by his torture by the warlord, and the odd spell fashioned to keep him from his magic. But he lacked the strenuous simulation, the fear of death, that had allowed him to use a lesser magic. And he could not cause the spell to work for him. Sighing, he stood and began again to trudge northward. For 3 days he had seen the ice spire rising high into the sky above the leading edge of the great glacier. Now he trudged up the high rise and gauged his distance, transporting himself without a known location. A pattern to focus his mind upon was dangerous unless he could see his destination. He picked a small outcropping of rock, what seemed to be an entrance, and incanted a spell. Suddenly he stood before what was clearly a door into an ice tower, fashioned by some arcane art. At the door appeared a robed figure. It moved silently and with grace, and was tall, but nothing of its features could be seen in the deep dark of its hood. Pug waited and said nothing. The Thurn were obviously frightened of these creatures, and while Pug had little fear for himself, a blunder could cost him the only source of aid he could think to help stem the enemy. Still, he was ready to instantly defend himself if necessary. The winds whipped snowflakes and swirls about him, and the robed figure motioned for Pug to follow, and turned back into the door. Pug hesitated a moment, then followed the robed figure into the spire. Inside the spire were stairs, carved into the walls. The spire itself seemed to be fashioned from ice, but somehow there was no cold. In fact, the spire seemed almost warm after the bitter wind of the tundra. The stairs led up towards the pinnacle of the spire and down into the ice. The figure was vanishing down the stairs, almost out of sight when Pug entered. Pug followed, and they descended what seemed an impossible distance, as if their destination lay far below the glacier. When they halted, Pug was certain they were many hundreds of feet below the surface. At the bottom of the stairs, they came to a large door, fashioned from the same warm ice as the walls. The figure moved through the door, and again Pug followed. What he saw on the other side caused him to halt, dumbfounded. Before the mighty edifice of ice, in the frozen wastes of the Arctic of Calawan, was a forest. Moreover, it was a forest like none upon Calawan, and Pug's heart raced as he beheld the mighty oaks and elms, ash and pine. Dirt, not ice, lay under his boots, and all around a soft, gentle light was diffused by the green branches and boughs. Pug's guide pointed toward a path and again took the lead. Deep in the forest they came to a large clearing. Pug had never seen the like of the sight before him, but he knew there was another place, a far distant place, that looked much as this did. In the center of the clearing, gigantic trees rose with mighty platforms erected. Amid them, connected by roads upon the backs of branches, silver, white, gold, and green leaves all seem to glow in the mystic light. Pug's guide what, there's elves here? There's an elven forest underneath the tundra in Kelowon? That's crazy. This is insane. What a twist. I'm probably the only one excited about it. What a twist. You kidding me? Hang on, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna run ads real quick over on Twitch and we're gonna talk about this. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because the realms used to be linked together. The two realms used to be linked, and there was this crossing of them. So clearly, like, this was a possibility. But the fact that there is another group of elves underneath the ice in Kelowon is insane. Like, that's so ridiculously clever to link the worlds together. That's such good writing. That's such a good twist. Do we have anybody on Twitch that doesn't have a sub that is on with us right now? I wasn't going to say anything, but I was waiting for the reaction. Elves gonna elf, right, Sage? It's insane. That's such a good twist. That's such a good twist. It's so good. Like, yeah, ice elves, right? And they have a forest. Unlike I almost didn't pay attention to it, but he says, deep in the forest came a large clearing. Pug had never seen the like of the sight before him, but he knew there was another place, a far distant place, that looked much as this did. He's talking about Elvandar. That is absolutely insane. That is so good. Oh, I can't wait, Baird, because like this already is leading to something very good. Because that means that there are also Valheru on this plane somewhere. And there are Dragonborn also in this world. Excellent, Nessa. I appreciate you for that. Thank you kindly. The generosity is appreciated. All right, guys, 55 seconds, and then we're going to start back up again. I just want to make sure that everybody gets to be here for it. But what a twist! This is very happy. We are 6 pages from the end. This was a good thing to happen. Kayla, hello. I said hello earlier, but I don't know if you heard me. But hello, I'm glad you made it in. Right, the Valheru are extinct, but that means that there is a chance that the Valheru were here, I mean. I don't mean are here. I mean were here. Which means that there might be artifacts and things. And obviously you'll know, but I'm just saying, the fact that the elves are here opens up the possibility that there are Valheru artifacts and things in Kelowon, which is nuts. Mike, hello, welcome in, thank you for the rose, my friend. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Well, it depends on what we mean. Now, if we're talking about Tolkien elves, not necessarily that. But if you go to Iceland or you go to Norway, they believe in elves and trolls that are sort of these deceptive little tricksters, rather than the elf we think of when we think elf, we think Dungeons and Dragons or Tolkien elf. But not saying anything. All right, Ben. All right. We're back on now. We're back on now. So let's see what comes from this. Similar to leprechauns, you know. What's actually interesting, Mike, is that leprechauns are not actually tricksters or like hoarders of gold. They're actually grave diggers in actual Irish folklore. I think I did a video about that some time ago. All right. Let's continue. Pug's guide raised his hand to his hood and slowly lowered it. Pug's eyes widened in wonder. Before him stood a creature unmistakable to one reared upon Midkemia. Pug's expression was one of open disbelief, and he was nearly speechless. Before him stood an old elf, who, with a slight smile, said,
Welcome to Elvardane, Malamber of the Assembly. Or would you prefer to be called Pug of Crydy? We've been expecting you. I prefer Pug,
he half whispered. He was able to muster up only a shred of his composure, so shocked was he to find Midkemia's second most ancient race living among the impossible forest, deep in the ice of an alien planet.
What is this place? Who are you? And how did you know I was coming here? We know many things, son of Crydy. You are here because it is time for you to face the greatest of terrors, what you call the enemy. You're here to learn. We are here to teach. Who are you?
The elf motioned Pug towards the gigantic platform.
There is much you must learn. A year shall you abide with us, and when you leave, you will come to power and understanding you only glimpse now. Without that teaching, you will not be able to save or survive the coming battle. With it, you may save 2 worlds.
Nodding as Pug moved forward, the elf fell in beside him.
We are a race of elven kind long vanished from Midkemia. We are the eldest race of that world, servants to the Valheru, those whom men call the Dragon Lords. Long ago did we come to this world, and for reasons you shall learn, we chose to abide here. We watch for the return of that which has brought you to us. We prepare against the day we see the return of the enemy. We are the Eldar.
Stunned by this, Pug could only wonder. Silently he entered the twin city of the elves, Elvendard, and the place deep in the ice that the Eldar called Elvardane. And now we're back to Arutha. We're skipping stages. Arutha strode down the hall. Liam walked to his side. Behind him hurried Volney, Father Nathan, and Father Tully, Fannin, Gardan, and Kasumi, Jimmy and Martin, Roald and Dominic. Laurie and Carline followed in the pack. The prince still had on the stained and tattered travel clothing he had worn on the ship from Crydy. They had had a fast and a blessedly uneventful journey. 2 guards still waited without the room Pug had ensorcelled. Arutha motioned for them to open the door, and when it was opened, he waved them aside, and with the hilt of his sword, he smashed the seal as Pug had instructed. The prince and the 2 priests hurried to the princess's side. Liam and Volney kept the rest outside. Nathan opened the vial containing the curative fashioned by the elven spell weavers. As instructed, he poured a drop upon Anita's lips. For a moment, nothing happened, and then the princess's lips flickered. Her mouth moved, and she licked the drop from her lips. Tully and Arutha held her up. Nathan raised the vial to her mouth and poured. She drank it all. Before their eyes, colour returned to Anita's cheeks. As Arutha knelt at her bedside, her eyes fluttered and opened. She turned her head slightly and said, "Arutha," in an almost silent whisper. Her hand gently came and touched his cheek as tears of thanks ran unashamedly down his face. He took her hand and kissed it. Then Liam and the others were in the room. Father Nathan rose and Tully barked.
"Only a minute now. She has to rest."
Liam laughed, his loud, happy laugh. "Listen to him, Tully. I'm still the king." Tully said,
"They make you Emperor of Kesh, King of Craig, and Grand Master of the Brothers of the Shield of Dala as well, for all I care. To me, you'll always be one of my less gifted students. A moment, then out you go."
He turned away, but with the others, his face was wet. Princess Anita looked around at all the smiling faces and said,
"What happened?"
She sat up and with a wince said,
"Oh, I hurt."
then smiled an embarrassed smile.
"Arutha, what did happen? All I remember was turning to you at the wedding, and
I'll explain later. You rest, and I'll see you again soon." She smiled and yawned, covering her mouth.
"Oh, excuse me, but I am sleepy."
She snuggled down and was soon asleep. Tully began shooing them from the room. Outside, Liam said,
"Father, how soon before we can finish this wedding?"
"In a few days," said Tully. "The restorative powers of the mixture are phenomenal."
"2 weddings,"
said Carline. Liam said,
"I was going to wait until we returned to Rillanon." "Not on your best horse's rump,"
snapped Carline.
"I'm taking no chances."
"Well, Your Grace," said the king to Laurie,
"I guess it's been decided."
Laurie said, "Your Grace!" With a laugh and a wave as he walked away, Liam said,
"Of course. Didn't she tell you? You can't have my sister married to a commoner. I'm naming you Duke of Salador."
Laurie looked more shaken than before.
"Come along, love,"
said Carline, taking him by the hand.
"You'll survive."
Arutha and Martin laughed, and Martin said, "Have you noticed the peerage have been going to hell lately?" Arutha turned to Rold.
"You were in this for the gold, but my thanks go beyond mere gold. A bonus you shall have. Phony. This man is to have a bag of 100 gold sovereigns, our agreed upon price. Then he's to have 10 times that as a bonus. And then another 1,000 for thanks."
Rold grinned.
"You're generous, Highness. And if you'll accept, you're welcome to be here as my guest, as long as you wish. You might even find it in your heart to consider joining my guard. I have a captaincy about to open."
Rold saluted.
"Thanks, but no, Your Highness. I've thought of late it's time to settle down, especially after this last business. But I've no ambitions to enlist."
"Then feel free to be guest as long as you desire with us. I'll instruct the royal steward to prepare a suite for your use." With a grin, Rold said,
"My thanks, Highness."
Gardon said,
"Does that remark about a new captaincy mean I'm finally done with his duty, and I can return to Crydia with his grace?"
Arutha shook his head.
"Sorry, Gardon. Sergeant Valdis will become captain of my guard, and there's no retirement for you yet. From those reports of pugs you brought from Stardock, I'm going to need you around. Liam is about to name you Knight Marshal of Krondor."
Kasumi clapped Gardon on the back.
"Congratulations, Marshal."
Gardon said,
"But—"
Jimmy cleared his throat in expectation, and Arutha turned and said,
"Yes, Squire. Well, I thought you had something to ask."
Jimmy looked from Arutha's face to Martin's.
"Well, I just thought as long as you were passing out rewards—"
"Ah, yes, of course." Turning, Arutha spotted one of the squires and shouted,
"Locklear!"
The young squire came running to bow before his prince.
"Highness, escort Squire Jimmy back to Master de Lacy and inform the Master of Ceremonies that Jimmy is now Senior Squire."
Jimmy grinned as he and Locklear walked away. He seemed about to say something, and then thought better of it and followed Locklear. Martin put his hand on Arutha's shoulder.
"Keep an eye on that boy. He seriously means to be Duke of Krondor someday,"
Arutha said.
"Damn me if he just might not do it."
"Fernando, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome in. If someone tells you that you have elf-like features, you'd best find out if they're like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, or indeed magician, right? Absolutely, Bear." Okay, all right. We have two pages left for the epilogue, or 3 pages left for the epilogue. So we're almost to the end. Or if they mean Maleficent. Alright. The Moradale silently raged. To the three chieftains before him, he betrayed no hint of his anger. They were leaders of the most important lowland confederations. As they approached, he knew that what they would say before it was spoken. He listened patiently, the light from the large bonfire before his throne casting a flicker across his chest, giving the illusion of the movement of the birthmark dragon there.
Master, said the centermost chieftain, my warriors grow restless. They chafe and they complain. When shall we invade the Southlands?
The Pantathian hissed, but his restraining gesture from the leader quieted him. Mermandamus sat back in his throne and silently brooded on his setback. His finest general lay dead, irretrievable even to those powers at his command. The bulky clans of the north were demanding action, while the mountain clans were drifting away by the day, confounded by Murad's death. Those who had come from the southern forests whispered among themselves of traveling the lesser passes back to the land of men and dwarves, seeking to return to their homelands in the foothills near the Green Heart and among the highland meadows of the Grey Towers. Only the hill clans of the Black Slayers remained steadfast, and they were too small a force, despite their ferocity. No, the first battle had been lost. The chieftains before him demanded some promise, some sign of portent, to reassure their nervous alliances before old feuds erupted. Mermandamus knew he could hold the armies here for only a few more weeks without marching. This far north, there were only 2 short months of warm weather left before the fall, then quickly the harsh northern winter would strike. If war was not forthcoming, to bring booty and plunder, the warriors would soon need to return to their homes. Finally, Mermandamus spoke. "Oh, my children, the auguries are not in fruition." Pointing above the stars, seen faintly against the glare of the camp's fires, he continued. "The cross of fire heralds only the beginning, but we have not reached that time. Kathos says the 4th bloodstone is not yet properly aligned. The lowest star will be in proper position at summer solstice next year. We cannot hurry the stars." Inwardly he raged at the dead Murad for having failed him in so critical a mission. "We trusted our fate to one who acted too swiftly, who may have been uncertain in his resolve." The chieftains exchanged glances. All knew Murad was one above reproach in visiting destruction on the hated humans. As if reading their minds, Mermandamus said, "For all his might, Murad underestimated the Lord of the West. That is why this human is to be feared, why he must be destroyed. With his death, the way south becomes open. For then shall we visit destruction upon all who oppose our will." Standing, he said, "But for the time, it is not yet. We shall wait. Send home your warriors. Let them prepare against winter. But carry forth the word. Let all the tribes and clans gather here next summer. Let the confederations march with the sun when it again begins its journey south. For before next Midsummer's Day, the Lord of the West shall die." His voice rose in volume. "We are tested against the powers of our forefathers and found wanting. We were judged guilty of failing in our resolve. We shall not again so fail." He struck his fist to palm, his voice raising to a near shriek. "In a year's time, We shall bring forth the news that the hated Lord of the West is destroyed. Then shall we march. Then shall we, and we shall not march alone. We shall call our servants, the goblins, the mountain trolls, the land-striding giants. All shall come to serve us. We shall march into the human lands and burn their cities. I shall erect my throne upon a mountain of their bodies. Then, O my children, shall we spill blood. Mermandamus gave permission for the chieftains to withdraw. This year's campaign was at an end. Mermandamus signaled to his guards to attend him as he swept past the crooked form of the serpent priest. Silently he brooded upon Murad's death and the loss that death had caused. The cross of fire would look much as it did now for the next year and a bit more, so the lie about the configuration would hold. But time was now an enemy. A winter would be spent in preparation and remembrance. No, this defeat would rankle his freezing nights of winter, slowly passing. But those nights would see the birth of another plan, which would bring the death of the Lord of the West, he who was the bane of darkness. And with that death the onslaught against the nations of men would begin, and the killing would not halt until all lay prostrate at the feet of the Moradel, as was proper. The Moradel would serve one master, Mermandamus. He turned and faced those most loyal to him. In the flickering light of their torches, madness danced in his eyes. His voice was only sound in the ancient hills, a harsh whisper that grated upon the ear. How many human slaves have our raiders captured to pull our siege engines? One of the captains answered, "Several hundred, master." "Kill them all at once." The captain ran to carry out the order, and Mermandamus felt a lessening of rage within as prisoners' deaths atoned for Murad's failure. In near hissing tones, Mermandamus said, "We have erred, O my children. Too soon did we gather to regain that which is rightfully our heritage. In a year, when the snows again have melted from the peaks, we again will gather, and then shall all who oppose us know terror." He paced about the hall, a figure of stunning power, a fey brilliance surrounding him, in an almost perceptible halo. His magnetism was nearly palatable. After a silent time, he spun toward the Pantathian. "We leave. Prepare the gate." The serpent nodded, while the black slayers took their position along the wall. When each was situated in a niche, a field of green energy surrounded them. Each became rigid, a statue in his private nook, awaiting the summons that would come next summer. The Pantathian finished a long incantation, and a shimmering silver field appeared in the air. Without another word, Mermandamus and the Pantathian stepped through the gate, leaving Sarsargoth for some place unknown only to himself and Kathos. The gate winked out of existence. Silence dominated the hall. Then, outside, the screams of dying prisoners began to fill the night. And so ends the third book in the Rift War saga, Silverthorn, which means that it's very likely that Mermandamus is some older being, but he's probably a descendant of the Dragon Lords. So something akin to what Tamas became. So Tamas got possessed by the soul of a Valheru, which are the Dragon Lords. But this guy is very likely a a descendant of the dragon. Like, that's an incredible ending to the book. Round of applause for that. Cheers. I come from the chat most of the time. Okay, Richie said, okay, so got here through Shorts on Mythology. So is there edited videos? I mean, enjoy the interaction, but want to hear straight reading, and when you're thinking about doing your own stuff and the ladies' stuff, waited until you were done reading to post. Also, any plans for either of my favorite series, Discworld or Piers Anthony's Incarnations of Immortality? And have you been cast as Hagrid's son? Maybe something happened between the Giantess and the other school. Thank you for the compliment, Richie. I appreciate it. So, to answer your question, yes, we do have edited videos. The lives themselves, I do not edit down. I suppose I could if you guys wanted me to. But as of right now, we don't do that. We do a bunch of mythology videos over on YouTube. And we also have a channel called Endless Epic where I just do straight reads. Though there they have to be... what is the word? They have to be older books. They have to be public domain books. Because we can't make audiobooks of new books. Which is why we have to do it this way. When we're having the discussion and we're talking about the books, we're able to read them on, with everybody in here. But if we just are recording them and then putting them out, we're not allowed to do that. That violates copyright. So we do it this way, so we have discussions around the books, and that's how we do it. Yeah, we're basically a digital book club doing it this way. As far as Discworld, Discworld has been brought up. I don't know if I've had Incarnations of Immortality, but I don't pick any of the books for the story time. You guys do. So if you want to join the guild, you can recommend the books, and they get put on the vote list. And every time we start a new book, you guys vote on it. I don't pick them. They are always community picked. The best digital book club. It's essentially what we are, more or less. The Tavern's a giant story and book club. All I heard was blah, 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 giant women, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I said, though, Wesley, so you might want to get your ears checked. Digital book mafia, they're probably closer to that, if we're being perfectly fair, Frost. But yeah, most of what I do is I talk about storytelling. We are a magical tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. I am a classically trained storyteller, and my wife and I uphold a very old tradition that surrounds the art of storytelling and the specific tradition of storytelling and keeping that comes through my family, which is in an old Norse Gaelic clan from Ireland. And it's a tradition that my grandfather and his family have kept alive for over 100 generations, and we pass it down to our children. Digital book dragons, indeed that. Where is the voting in the guild? The voting in the guild is always in the lore room. The lore room tab, the voting is always done there. Digital book goblin eaters, that too. Matty would like for us to be a cult. That's what he keeps trying to get us to be, that's for sure. Matty keeps trying to start new cults over and over again. Alright. Well, guys, my voice is very worn out from all of the reading because we barely had any stop time. We read basically all through the 3 hours, but I'll give us one song to end. Do we have a song we haven't heard in a while that we'd like to hear? Not one of the usual, because we do a lot of songs that are regular, but do we have any songs we haven't heard in a while we'd like to do as a send-off song? Which also, by the way, for anybody who's new, we sing shanties at the end of Storytime. Please do Red is the Rose. Well, we did just recently do Red is the Rose, but since Kai hasn't been in a while, we can do Red is the Rose. No Poke Rap. I'll tell you what, I'll do Red is the Rose and Misty Mountain. Those ones will be good enough to end us off. Zach, you are definitely not new here, Zach. I've actually known you longer than most of the folk in the tavern. But thank you for all of the tips, brother. Jesus, thank you kindly, my friend. But Johnny, I've not been in a while either. That's right, but we've never done the Poke Rap, so... Castle, LC requests Misty Mountain. Alright, we will do Red is the Rose, and we will do Misty Mountain. Those are the ones we're gonna do tonight. And we'll do more on I'll give extra songs on Thursday. Since we were running. Zach, my friend, thank you for all the iHeart views and all of the heart reflexes, brother. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated, my friend. Thank you kindly. Destiny can help you get into the guild, Richie. There's a link over on the main page. You can find it through there. But if Destiny can't help you get in, then you can message me and I'll help you get in. All right, friends, let's go ahead. We'll do Misty Mountain first, and then we will do Red is the Rose second. We're gonna do the short version of Misty Mountain again with the Peter Hollins version, and then we'll do Red is the Rose, and then I'll send you all off to roam about the country again. Good night, Destiny Love. Everybody say good night to our lead barmaid. She keeps us all safe and fed during story time. Sorry, Destiny, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mary Beth. Rest well. And when you rise tomorrow, hopefully you're all ready to face the day. Good night, Zach. Thank you for all the tips, brother. Thank you for coming in. It's always good to see you, mate. Next time you're out and about, we can go grab something to eat. Next time you're around. All right, Misty Mountain. Meds and bedtimes. Sounds like a good end of the night. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find a long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night, the fire was red, it flaming spread, the trees like torches blaze with light, the wind was on the withered heath, but in the forest stirred no leaf, their shadows lay, be night or day, and dark things silent crept beneath. The wind went on from west to east, all movement in the forest ceased, but shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices were released. the wind may blow, and rain may fall, we must away ere break of day. Far o'er the wood and mountain tall, far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten gold. Thank you for the song, my friends. Wesley, if you're off, good night. I'm always glad to catch these while I'm on duty. And I'll be on earlier now, Zach, so from now on we'll be on starting at 4:30 my time on these days, so there'll be more opportunity for folk who are normally in bed when I get on to be in. Good night, Wesley, if you're off to bed. Castle, there is probably one more character, I think, of right now I need feedback on. Orpheus, since I'm close to being able to fix him a bit in book 1. Alright, send me what you have and I'll get to it when I can, Matty. You're on nights. Well, now I just get to be in here. You get to be in here in the early part of your night rather than the later part. Then, good lord, Zach, that's a hell of a thing. Thank you, Richie. I'm so glad that you dropped in. I'm glad that you enjoy the stories, and we'll look forward to seeing you more often if you did, my friend. It's wonderful to have you, and I'm glad you enjoy the shorts if you do. And any of the longer videos that you end up enjoying, let me know if there's anything you'd like to see. I'm always happy to do stories for you guys when you ask for them. Just so you guys know, when you guys leave comments saying that you'd like to hear a story, the lady and I we do consider them and we put them into the roster if it makes sense for us to tell the story. So, absolutely, Belinda's my pleasure. Zach, always a pleasure. Thank you for your generosity tonight, brother. To everybody who tipped the Tavern Keeper, thank you so much. It means the world to us. And I want you all to know that for those of you who show up and who are here and who make it a wonderful environment, that is the greatest gift that you guys can give. Yes, when you buy things from the tavern and when you tip the Tavern Keeper, it does help quite a bit. But just being here and being a wonderful part of the community, commenting and liking on things, it means the world to the lady and I, and it's absolutely the best that we could ever ask for from anyone. I'm in the guild, I think. I just downloaded a really weird ass spell. If you're having any trouble, Richie, just message me and I'll help you work on it. And if you can't get on a hold of me, then Destiny is pretty good with tech support, usually. I think you'd be a really cool librarian, Castle. Oh, you flatter me, Kayla. I kind of am. This is sort of a big library of stories. We have a grand archive of all the stories that ever were and ever will be. Of course, Matty, of course. Castle, thank you for your rendition of Misty Mountain. It was a fantastic performance. Always a pleasure, Esther. Let's move on to our final song of the evening. Red is the Rose for Kai. Beauty and Blasphemy, hello. You made it in at the end. We're actually at the end. We moved to an earlier time. But now you know, because we're now starting at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. And that'll be better late than never. Always better late than never. We're glad we got to see you. Good night, Wesley. Rest well, brother. But yes, on Thursday we'll be in at 4:30 for the final chapters of Harry Potter Book 6, and that's not something any of you's gonna want to miss. I guarantee it. All right, final song of the evening. Red is the rose. Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills to your darling. You choose the road, love, and I'll make the vow, and I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green woods that we strayed, when the moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon, it shone its rays on her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. It's not for the parting that my sister pains. It's not for the grief of my mother. It's all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Oh, my love is fairer than any. Thank you for the songs, my friends. Always, always, always wonderful to sing and spend the evening with you. Frost, I'm glad you got to be here too. To all of the folk who haven't been in a while, Beauty and Blasphemy, Kai, Wesley, all of the new friends, Richie. For those of you who are new again, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. This is a tavern at the end of the world, where all stories eventually come to rest. And I am your humble tavern keeper, and you have found your way here, because you had a deep abiding love for stories. And the portals opened for you, and brought you to us. Good night, Esther. Rest well. Thank you to all of you who spent time. Teresa, you said goodbye, everyone. I'd love to hear. Don't forget your old shipmates. One of these story times. I hope my phone didn't rewrite things for me because I can't check on here. That's all right. I'll add it to the list. Bear, if you can add it to the list for us, I appreciate you. Good night, Kayla. It's good to see you. Kai, wonderful to see you. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful night. It was spectacular. If you're on Twitch, we will, of course, raid out to one of our friends to share the love. But for everybody else, it is time for the doors to close. And while it is always sad to part, it is also always spectacular to know that when we seek stories again, they will, in fact, open. So, until next time, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, and I will see you next time.
Whenever I'm doing my face and shit, I'm listening to audiobooks because it's like the only time I can really read. And I've been listening to Ready Player One. I just got to the part where he's looking to get the Jade Key, the second key. Black Dragon, Devin Gaming, thank you so much for the raid! Let's go!
Ads.
And like, oh man, and the ads just hit when they came in. Oh no, I'm so sorry. So like, please go follow Black Dragon Tavern Gaming if you haven't. Go do it right now, please. Thank you. Oh no, I know. I turned it off to where it usually pushes the ads anytime we get a raid, only because like